right. We're live. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the weekly roundup here in the Yogapreneur Collective. This is the last roundup of 2022. Oh my goodness. And before we went live, we were having a little chat about hair because do you like my haircut? Yeah, there you go. And it made me think actually, there's this tradition in Japan that I'm not, and I don't know all the specific details about, but I always think about it around this time of the year because the tradition is to get rid of things that you're not using, like my sides of my hair, get rid of things that you're not using. And what we were saying is like, if there's something that's bugging you and you don't need it and it isn't bringing you joy, per Marie Kondo, then just let it go. So the Japanese like to do this at the beginning of the year. And they actually, like a friend who lived in Japan told me that they like stack things outside their houses and then people can take them or whatever. And something that we've started as a tradition in my family is at the end of the year, going through our drawers and actually like Marie Kondoing. I'm so like proud I got my kids to do that. We went through the drawers and like threw away stuff that wasn't bringing us joy. So why am I talking about this in this context? It's the same thing for your business, right? Like this can be a great time of year to go through things in a way, review things in your business. And if something is like bugging you, not bringing you joy, this is a very good time to just let that go and then make room for something that will be bringing you results, bringing you joy in your business. So those are my thoughts about New Year's traditions. Do you guys have any end of year traditions that you have done in your businesses or that you're working on your clients with, or beginning of the year traditions? What's something that you really like to do at the end or beginning of each year? Alex, do you want to start? You were talking about one before we.
Yeah, I can start. So, I think there's a couple different things. There's outward facing traditions, right? And then there's internal structural organization aspects of your business. And I found over the years, we got into a rhythm working with our bookkeeper and our accountant doing year-end review and also forecasting. So one of the things, we didn't always do that, but for years we have done forecasting. And forecasting was basically having a third-party professional. If you're using QuickBooks or something similar, all your data has all the information of your past, whether you're 18 months old or 18 years old, and being able to utilize that data to forecast for the next year. And what that can do is really bring a lot of contentment and ease to your, as you step into, in this case, 2023, and you kind of have a good understanding of your highs and lows, cash flow for next year. It may not include, as I said earlier, your new initiatives, whether it's your teacher trainings or whether it's your retreats and workshops, so that you may have new income verticals and you may adjust those accordingly during your forecast. The other thing too is you can look at your fixed expenses, right? And you can look at increase those expenses due to inflation or what have you, so that you understand, okay, by the end of 2023, we're going to be about 20% profitable, or last year we're 18, we're hoping for 22. And it gives you a really strong base from which to feel confident enough to create new business. I think a lot of us, and so going into 2023, there's this feeling of, okay, I've got my calendar filled out, I've got my my forecast going for myself. Simultaneously, I have these new initiatives. And the other thing I would just add to all of this, and if you guys are listening to this and don't have a bookkeeper or what have you, but you are using QuickBooks, think about finding a bookkeeper who can go into your data and help build a forecast sheet for you moving forward, which is really powerful. The other thing is, it's a great time of year to review any liabilities. So what does your lease look like going into 2023? What does we were talking about this earlier in chat, like your workman's comp policy, make sure you're covered that way. Make sure if you have ICs and W employees in your business, make sure they're both insured and covered for any outstanding issues. And lastly is, if you've added new services to your business, make sure those are covered via your insurance, because a lot of times we're moving really quick. We can't wait to add this new thing for kids care or kids classes or offsite, yoga classes. new teacher. We just want to make sure those liabilities are sewn up so that, because if it can happen, it will happen. And so we want to be prepared for that. Yeah. So that this time of year, end of 2022 through January, I would always sew that up so I could go into the remainder of the year like being a real entrepreneur, you know.
Such a good point. Yeah, make sure those things are covered by your insurance and also by your waivers that you're having people sign. Terry, right. This kind of relates to what we were talking about earlier too, like going back to basics. Oh, you're muted, Terry. Put your hand down. But
Put my hand down, but I did unmute myself. So a couple of thoughts with Alex, what Alex said about, good bookkeeper, cash forecasting, things like that. We do have a resource in YC. Her name is Nina Israel, and she's part of the YC. So you could send her a message. She has a wonderful product called Cash Mapping that is specifically what Alex mentioned. And while she's not going to be your bookkeeper, she can help you get set up on cash mapping. So that's definitely a resource for you. And then the other thing I wanted to mention when Alex said about workman's compensation insurance, depending on your state, obviously talking to the United States, depending on your state and depending on how your organization is structured, I found out because I was set up as an S Corp. And because of that, I was an employee of my corporation. And because I was the employee of the corporation, but I also owned the corporation, I could actually opt out of workman's compensation insurance because the theory being, I am not going to tap into that as the owner. So I actually saved, it wasn't a lot, but I do think I saved about $100+ a year by opting out of my workman's
compensation. For you, right?
For
not
me.
Opt out for your other
not
employees.
It was just I could opt out that it did not cover me because I was an employee, but I also owned the corporation. So again, it just depends upon how you're structured. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there. It's something to take a look at and just call your insurance carrier and just find out. Because, hey, if you're looking to save some, sometimes all those little expenses, they can add up to be pretty significant. So I just wanted to throw that out as well. Hi, Teresa, do you have something to chime in about that?
It just kind of related because when Alex mentioned liabilities, it made me think of like cleaning up your software a little bit. So that's always a really good thing to do at the end of the year. And depending on your software, the reports will be different. But like, for instance, in my body, the outstanding series report shows you everyone that has a pricing option in their account. And maybe the expiration date was set wrong. And so that needs to be taken off of their account. Or maybe you need to remind them to come in for their classes because it's going to expire soon and things like that. So that report can be cleaned up. Any negative and positive account balances can be cleaned up. If you've never gone into those reports, sometimes you might have an account balance from like years ago, and that needs to be off the books now, And there was one more that I was going to think about too. Merging duplicate clients, that happens in my body. That's another good one to like clean up at the end of the year. And there's another one that I was thinking of. And so if I think of it, I'll chime in. But some of that software cleanup, because, it's always clean data in, clean data out. So you want to make sure everything's cleaned up in the end of the year is a nice time to pay attention to that and to get all that cleaned up and updated.
Right. And we're going to you next, Alex, but Terry, are you still doing this as a service, right?
Yeah. For MindBody only.
MindBody only.
But if you're a MindBody account, we do offer a software audit to exactly what Teresa just described. And, I go in, I look at outstanding balance, all the things Teresa mentioned, and then a bunch of other stuff as well.
Making sure that your service categories and everything are set up right,
Yep.
because then, you might have something showing up weird on your KPIs for 2022 because you have something categorized in a different way. So this is a great time to get you started for 2023. That way your KPIs will reflect like more accurately what's happening, right?
And if that's something that you're interested in, you can just DM me in the YC, because there's not a set price for it, because it really depends upon
what a mess you are.
funky the data is, right? And also a lot of times it depends upon how long you've been in business. And so what we first do is I just kind of go through and do a quick little, my hashtag Terry's dad back of the envelope calculation about what it would look like. And then I quote it out to you and we go from there. So it is a service that we do provide. Yes.
Yeah. So DM Terry about that. Awesome.
Inventory was the one I forgot.
Oh yeah. Inventory. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Physical inventory. It's the end of the year, of course, count what you have, make sure it matches what you have in your software. Inventory is a big one.
And speaking of the Marie Kondo thing, right? Like if you have a bunch of inventory that's not moving, if you don't already have a system in place for cycling that through and like putting some of it away for a while and bringing it back so it seems new, a great time to work with a coach and figure out what that system is going to be. And like just for the end of the year, now is a good time for a clearance rack. Like just get that stuff out of there, sell it at cost if you have to, so that you can bring fresh items in. Terry's saying don't sell it at cost, but
no, I'm saying below cost.
Right, or below cost.
If you have shit that's been sitting around for particularly pre-pandemic, blast it out. $2, $3, $5.
I've seen leotards with dust on them, you guys.
Yeah, it's disgusting
bad out there. You need to.
And if it's really bad, you can talk to your accountant. Is that you just write it off. You take the inventory. This is what the cost of this merchandise is. You get rid of it, you donate it, you get it out of there, and then you take it as a write-off on your taxes. Again, talk with your tax professional about that, but that is another option that you can do. And if you're thinking, oh, wow, I'm losing money on it, you've already lost money on it.
Right.
So better to get some cash, get some money in, then you can use that to maybe buy fresh inventory, things like that, or develop a new retail strategy. Alex.
Alex.
Yeah, I would agree with the inventory for sure. Got to have your cost of goods sold and the amount on shelf at 31st, basically. You can always go back after your New Year's party and run your reports and subtract out new sales to get that number for your accountant. One thing that Terry said previously, that she was organized as an S Corp, one thing with small businesses, a lot of times small businesses start with as an LLC just often, and it's a easy setup, run and gun kind of thing. And all of a sudden, 3 years later, you're profitable, or, maybe 5 years has gone by, or maybe you've switched accountants and you haven't really quite had that conversation. So it is a great time to review whether you should convert to an S Corp. Advantage being you will not be paying self-employment tax on your income that you can take from the company. And I'm sure that's why Terry was set up as an S Corp. Simultaneously, you can take a quote unquote reasonable salary due to the job. And especially if you have a manager, assistant manager, you basically end up having a relatively small salary, but you can have good profits in the company. So definitely review your numbers, speak to your accountant, make sure converting to an S Corp is not that challenging. You have to have articles of incorporation, et cetera, but it can be extremely beneficial for your business moving forward.
Plus, there is such a thing as an owner-only 401k plan.
Right.
So that was the other reason I set up as a corporation. So I did have a 401k plan, which I contributed to, and which the corporate contributed to. And that way I've got the tax advantage from the corporation side, and I had the tax advantage from the personal side. And if I'd ever had full-time employees, I would have had to open it up to anybody. But that doesn't mean that would have been a slightly more administrative expense on the 401k side of it, on actually administering the plan. But I didn't have to. If you offer a 401k, you do not have to match it. That is an option for the employer. So I had planned to eventually have like a full-time manager, and I was going to offer like a 25% match or maybe 50% match, but you don't have to. So that was the other reason I set up as a corporation, S Corp. And the other thing too is LLC stands for Limited Liability Corporation. Nice thing about being an S Corp is you have the full protection of a full corporation in terms of liability. So that's just, again, that's something you can review with your financial advisor, with your accountant. And it's just, I chose right out the gate to go as an S Corp. In fact, I didn't hire an accountant because he's like, why are you going to do that? You don't need to do that. And I thought, you don't even know me, dude. and you're already telling me I shouldn't do something, I'm not going to work with you. Because he
Mm.
didn't even talk to me. He's like, oh, that's a stupid, basically he was telling to my face, oh, that's a stupid idea. So I ended up hiring a female accountant who thought it was a brilliant idea.
That's definitely something to talk to a professional about because
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. 100%.
it's really
100%.
interesting though on the liability. I mean, without going too far down this rabbit hole, because then do you have full protection with an S corp as well? Because that's the reason a lot of people choose a limited liability company or corporation is because of that separation. Like if anything happens with my business, I'm not personally liable. So you also have that with an S corp.
You have more with an S corp than you do.
Interesting.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think historically the S corp has more history being protected in the courts. Again, we'd have to ask the lawyer.
Yeah.
or the legal people,
Yeah,
but
again,
I think that's how it's been explained to me because LLCs are newer entities.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting. Yeah. So definitely something good to look into around the beginning of the year. So you can, start with this. Like I like to make changes like that at the year mark. It makes your taxes a little simpler. But it may be a little bit late for that now.
yeah, I think
So never too late.
but you can, if you're thinking of it, you can start the process of looking at
Right.
it, researching it, and seeing if it's going to make sense for your business, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
One thing I could add that I was able to do, and if you guys have been in business for a long time or quite a few years, there is a time period maybe in which you can negotiate with your landlord or corporation that you're leasing to take the personal guarantee off your lease and switch it to your S corp or LLC. And I did that now many years ago, but it was a strategic thing that probably protected me at different times when business was fluctuating or what have you. It just gave me this sense of ease, and also to make sure your lease is fully transferable. You always want to make sure you have an exit strategy every day.
Yeah. That would be really nice if you can get the personal guarantee removed for sure.
You can do it.
Well, I didn't have to have a personal guarantee because I was an S corp.
I think it might be more difficult now.
Could be, yeah.
For the last few years to get that, but never hurts to ask.
Yeah.
And yeah, you never know actually, because landlords suffered a lot over the last few years as well. They didn't get like relief for rent not being paid, but they often had to give relief. So yeah, they might be more open in some ways to negotiating things. Okay, so cool. So end of year, like we've got looking at your accounting, reviewing, your cleaning up your software. If you're working with a coach, then you're definitely doing this. If you're not working with a coach, you should do this anyway, or start working with a coach and they'll help you. Like, look at your 1-year plan. Remember when you made that 1-year plan when you first started coaching? Like, you have to do that every year. It's not just the first year. So look at your 1-year plan. What are your goals for the year? What are your priorities? And then start, if you don't have your Q1 goals yet, do those. And if you do, congratulations, you can start working on your Q2 goals. That is something to do at the end of the year, beginning of the year as well. Carol, what did you have? Yes. Oh, look, I saw your hand coming.
I was thinking in terms of day-to-day processes, a good way to evaluate whether they need to be looked at or not is you ask yourself, why do we do it this way? And if the answer is we've always done it that way, it's probably time to look at it. If you know the reason behind it, and you can explain that to somebody else, then you're probably in good shape. But that's sort of how I thought to myself, well, this is the way I've always done it. I need to look at that and see if there's a better way or a change that needs to be made. If you're wondering what to look at, that might be a good one.
A great example of this is little girl asks her mom, Mom, how come you cut the ends off the roast beef? Well, I don't know, honey. Let's ask Grandma. Grandma, how come you cut? Well, Grandma says, I don't know, honey. Let's ask great grandma. Because my pot was too small and I had to cut off the ends. Right. So that goes to what you just said, Carol.
And I think our industry is especially guilty of that kind of doing things that way, right? We do so many things because, well, the studio I taught at before I opened my studio, that's how they did it. And they did it because the studio before them. And I think in our group, though, in the YC, we are definitely breaking out of that and good time to examine if maybe there are some things that you're doing there. That's like bringing me back to the Marie Kondo thing, which I've actually never seen that show, but like through pop culture references,
It's great.
you're supposed to ask yourself, right? Does this bring me joy? And then I had my kids ask with like their clothes and stuff, am I actually going to wear this? Like, even if it brings me joy to look at it, like, am I actually going to wear it? So same thing with your business, right? Like why am I actually doing this for a reason? Like, do I have this thing because I'm using it? Is it actually bringing success to my business?
Well, and the one step you miss with Marie Kondo, because I have watched, is that
good. Okay,
does it bring me joy? And if it does, but you still are like, do I need it? No, then you actually acknowledge the joy that this item gave you, and you say goodbye to it.
Oh, that's
literally
great.
You say, you should watch it. It's on Netflix, but literally it's like, because there's so much emotion attachment to certain things, particularly if it's like letting go of the blanket that my great grandmother knitted me like when I was 10. I've been carting it around, and I'm like, yes, it brought me joy when I was 10, but it's just taking up space. So I acknowledge it. I thought of my grandmother. I sent her a thank you to heaven. Thank you, Grandma, for making this. It brought me so much joy. And I set it aside. And I thought, oh, maybe some other 10-year-old little girl is going to fall in love with this. And that's how I was able to get rid of some of those. Now, I still haven't been able to get rid of my yearbooks yet. But one of my things my late aunt said is you're going to want those when you're in the old folks home, because then you can look at them and reminisce. So I'm like, okay, I'm okay keeping my yearbooks.
This is making me think, Terry, of our conversation about capacity, because like, maybe that's the thing, remember those days where you just were like, yeah, come on in, let's squeeze all those bodies in the room. Like, just get in here, and then maybe that's the thing that like, wow, that brought us a lot of joy at that era. And then possibly right now, though, we need to let that go because it's a different kind of filling the room. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So thank you. Okay. That was an excellent segue, by the way. I like how you did that. So I've been having conversations with quite a few of my clients lately. It's a good thing is that classes are getting full again. Right. And it comes to that we've talked about yoga brain versus business brain. Right. And ideally, when you're doing something within your business, whatever the decision is, if the yoga brain thinks it's great and the business brain's like, or vice versa, then you might want to think about that decision. Whereas if yoga brain and business brain are like, yep, this is great, that's usually a good indication that it's a good decision. Right. So yoga brain is like, to Kay's point, wait a second, we want to get as many people, we don't want to turn people away at the door. We don't want to do this. We don't. And the teachers are saying this. However, business brain is saying, whoa, wait a second here. What is this impact going to be? And so I think in terms of capacity, a lot of people have reduced their capacity in post-pandemic. And we realize that the mat to mat, nose to toes really is not going to fly anymore. And also, even back in the day, did that really create a great client experience? Maybe if it was a one-off class, like I was at a Thanksgiving morning class that literally was packed mat to mat, nose to toes. The mirrors would be steamed all the way up to the top. People would be drawing pictures on the mirrors with their fingers. It was super fun. Could we do that once a year? Yes. Could we do that every day? No way. No way. So looking at your capacity, and I've had conversations with owners who are like, well, my teachers say they want to put more, and they're always letting in extra people in. I'm like, this is where, as a business owner, you need to draw that hard line in the sand. And I need to do it. I had to do it at my studio pre-pandemic. And this is the reason why. The reason why is that we want to make sure that all clients have a good experience, and not everybody wants to be squashed in the room. Also, if you're squeezing people in right before class starts, people have to move their mats. It makes it disruptive. It can be a negative experience for people. So there's that part of it. It can delay class, all of those things. And then also you have to think about the stress on your infrastructure, right? Because I could have 36 people in a Bikram yoga class, right? And I had a lobby the size of a postage stamp. So trying to get 36 people out, 36 people in, and before I had capacity at 48. It was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. It was causing so many issues. My teachers were stressed, all of that. So we finally found the capacity that worked for our environment, worked for how big our lobby was and all of that. And the other thing too, is if you don't have front desk, and you have full classes and you have overcapacity, that think of the stress that's causing on whoever has to manage the desk, the teacher, right? So they're trying to check people in, answer questions afterwards, and their overcapacity, that causes a stressful situation. So I do think that this is one of those times where yoga brain and business brain can be in alignment, because you want to have that good client experience. You want to make it safe. You don't want things to be stressful. And this is where you have to train not only your clients, but your teachers. Magic words. Hey, Kay, I'm so sorry we were able to get you in class today. Book early. Make sure you book your class ahead of time. Did you know that as a member, you get priority booking? Right? And that leads to looking at your booking windows. How far in advance can people book their class? That type of thing. So this is where you strategize. It's another good opportunity to talk with your coach, or if you don't have one, schedule a call, is how do you strategize around that? And in getting people, training them to sign up ahead of time and all of that stuff. So that's how I feel that you can make that whole thing with capacity a good experience. So resist the temptation. Resistance is futile. John Picard. Jean-Luc Picard, right? Resistance is futile, the board. Anyway, so point being, manage it. This is where you as the owner are sometimes going to have to draw that line in the sand and say, look, team, this is why we really cannot accommodate more people. Even though, yeah, I know you can smush them in there. This is why we're not going to do it. So
It's
thoughts.
such a good point where like we always want the yoga brain and the business brain to be in alignment. So you have a yoga business brain, right? And that, like, having that consistency for your clients is in line. Both of those brains love that because that helps develop trust. And you really need your yoga students to trust you in the room. And you also need your customers to trust you, because they actually want that consistent experience each time. So they want to know that I'm going to come in and there's going to be a spot for my mat. And I'm not going to be like stressed out and stuff like that. I have a practical tool for you guys about capacity and making it really, really simple and easy for your staff and for your customers. Is we put dots. We marked dots on the floor. And I know that a lot of studios did this during capacity limitations, but maybe got rid of them when capacity opened up. But we did that before 2020 completely because we were experiencing full classes. And sometimes, there's like lots of people want to go in the back. So like they're all smushed together in the back. And then there's like one person up front, but like people feel like it's too crowded. So we spaced out the spots so that everybody could see themselves. We had mirrors so everyone could see themselves. And there were this many spots. There were 34 spots. And if person 35 came in, we were like, sorry, and we always, if we did have to turn somebody away, which what a nice problem to have, is we would give them a coupon for a free class. Is the only time we ever gave a free class. But like next time, come back and use this. But what that helps you do, Terry mentioned training your clients, is it trained them to either book in advance or show up early. If they had to, don't show up at the last minute. So that will really help create that peaceful environment before the class too. But that's a way. So if you're struggling with your teachers just wanting to be extra generous, like this is how many spots there are. Sorry, nobody else will fit because they're already perfectly spaced. So that could be something that you might try. And it worked really, really well for us. And people were very appreciative. Go ahead, Teresa.
I think that this is a really good one. And, sticking to your policies and training your staff to stick to your policies, and training your clients that we have these policies and we stick to them, because you do see that a lot. I feel like where the studio will have all these policies and all these rules, but then yoga brain gets in the way and, we won't follow, late cancel fees and they never get charged, or like you said, capacity rules, but they never get followed, or you have to purchase your membership before your intro offer is over to get the special deal, but people can purchase it months later. All these little things. It's important integrity wise to stick to these rules. And it's a business. You have to have these things. You have to have these policies, these rules. You have to have that consistency. or else people are going to walk all over you. The staff is not going to know, should I let this client do this or not? And you know, so you have to build consistency around that and sticking to all the policies that you have.
And if you have policies that you realize you can't stick to, get rid of them. Like, or you don't want to stick to them, you're in charge, right? So you don't, but it is so important, like, because what you think you're doing is being nice, but then you're also not being nice to everyone equally.
Right.
So probably you have a core value that's something like inclusivity or equality or fairness. And like, if you're not making an exception 100% of the time, you're not actually being inclusive and fair. So that's something to look at as well. Hey,
And it
Alex.
also goes towards employee policies too, or staff policies too, right? If the staff policy is the staff is to empty the garbage can after whatever, and not everybody does. I've had this conversation with, I can't get so-and-so to do it. Then then the other's like, well, I'm always doing it and Kay never does it. Right. So that also comes down to having those policies that are and sticking to them. What made me think is clients and staff, they're like toddlers and teenagers. They need boundaries, and they're always going to be pushing those boundaries and find out where they, and if you constantly move that line, they're just going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing.
And the
right?
reason to push is to know if they can trust you.
Yeah.
That's
They
actually
want those boundaries. Yeah.
They want you to, yes, like, this is what I say and I mean it. I know Alex is smiling because he's a dad too.
You know, I do think it's interesting. You talk about capacity, room capacity. And one of the things that has changed that and empowered studios over the multiple years is the capabilities of our CRMs or softwares, right? So to your point, like late cancel fees, and also acceptance of late cancel fees in the yoga studio industry. But I would suggest that in the past, when we did allow, you know, 15 extra people in the room or 70 people in the room, whatever, you basically were reacting to the market, right? And now we're more empowered to drive the market and lead by example by setting these boundaries, these policies to our community, but also, you know, in this case, the rules inside the studio to employees or the ICs. And I do think it doesn't take much to look at, you know, F45, Orange Theory, or any of these other corporate businesses. They all have, to Kay's point, a place to go when you practice. This is where you go, you know, this is what you do. This is how long you do it for. And this is what you get when you leave, or something like that, right? And what it does is our ability to maintain or adhere to our own policies, whether they're, capacity or something else, really, the longer you're in business, has a massive effect on the brand in the mindset of your community. So if you have been open for 5 years and you have 50 policies and you adhere to, 10 of them, right? It's going to have a really massive effect in the eyes of your community. In other words, oh yeah, that's the teachers too. Oh yeah, I used to teach there and it was kind of a mess. And, they didn't really tell me what to do or when I was supposed to do it. And same with the student base. So there's an exponential positive effect in your community. It's kind of like the rings in a pond, you throw the rock in and it goes out like this throughout the community. Over time, it has a massive effect. You might have students who have been wanting to go to your studio for 4 years and they continuously hear good things about it. I went there, it was a consistent experience. It wasn't overcapacity or whatever. Because if you get a bunch of overcapacity for 6 weeks and then it mellows out and it goes like this and goes like this, those have negative effects in your greater community. And it's hard to see that when you sit behind your desk running your studio, but if you've been running a studio for a long time, you hear it anecdotally. Whole Foods, the grocery store, the gas station, you hear good things or you hear bad things, So those are all really good advice, you guys.
Well, I was just going to add, just from a personal perspective, in terms of, bye, Carol, safe travels to your mom. As you know, I was teaching at a studio, and now I'm not for a couple of reasons. But one of the things I found out in my last week there is I was told when I came on board as a employee that there was a employee membership, which was free, but that you could not book ahead of time. Right? You had to, it was sort of like standby, kind of like the pilots, flight attendants, right? You have to show up, wait to see if there's space in class, and then they'll let you in. Well, I'm like, with my schedule, it's like, no, I didn't want to have to deal with that. So I paid for a discounted employee membership, which was still $99 a month. And then I find, and I've been doing this for 5 months, so it's basically $500. I basically worked to pay for my membership, essentially is what it was, right? I just found out recently that, oh no, that's not what I found out. I started to see all these teachers booking, because I had my buddy, and I'm like, what the heck? There's one class with 5 teachers in it. The class was full with a wait list. Of the 5 teachers, I was one. All the other 4 had free memberships, but yet they booked ahead. They should not have been. So I was really pissed. I'm like, I've been paying $99 a month because of this, and now I find out I didn't need to. So, my human brain was like, I seriously I'm thinking I might do a chargeback. I don't know. Right? It's just like, I'm really, really pissed me off. And it's like, okay, I had no problem paying the $99 because that was important to me. And I did it. But then I found out that, wait, I really didn't need to be paying that. So that's the other thing about sticking to policies. Now, granted, I'm not there anymore. Fine, but still, it just really irked me. Can you tell?
Imagine, I mean, looking at like from your yoga students' perspective too, imagine if the ones who always are okay with paying the late cancel fee and they just do it and they don't give you any crap about it. But then imagine if they found out about the person that you let it slide 5 times because you have a personal relationship, right? So that's something, if that's not something you've done, but that's something you probably feel the urge to do sometimes. Like, we get it, like you have those students that you're just, I feel for you. Like, I want to just like let you slide. You have these special circumstances, but if that's your policy, then the people who really like pay for it when you make exceptions are the people who are following your policy. So it's, if you need to, so then adjust the policy, right? Like for late cancel fees, we gave everybody 1 free pass, like the first time 1 free pass. And then for emergency situations, and we had like a list of what is an emergency situation. It's not your haircut took longer than expected. So, so look at those things and adjust as needed. Alex.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Terry, the story you told, because we all learn through stories, I think says a lot about reviewing our policy. And one of the challenges we were talking about earlier about like auditing basically our SOPs or our Ys, or do we use these things or can we throw them out? One of the challenges is the longer you're in your space, the larger and greater your bias is, the harder it is to review these things. So whether you hire a coach to help you out, whether you have your sister come in who just never works there and like walks through the whole department and helps you review these things. But one of the things to do is like simplify. The simpler the thing is to create it to enforce, right? So whether it's your manager, your teacher, yourself, it's easier to message and be simple with everything. If it's complicated and convoluted, it can be challenging, right? Just like a referral program, just like anything else, to simplify things. But one of the things that we all have to do is really, really hard is, the studio owner that you were working with or what have you, he or she may not have had bad intent, right? They had good intent, but then it got either they didn't enforce it, or it was never really gonna be functional, right? Like, what kind of teacher is gonna just like work there for 3 days in a row and then drive there to see if they could hopefully take a class, like sit in the parking lot? But they just didn't know, right? So they didn't quite think it through from all perspectives. So when we think about our pricing optimization, we want essentially a price to capture all avatars in our community. Well, we also need these policies to be able to capture the greater good of the community, and that includes our staff. And so you have to, it's like a chess game. You have to practice with these policies. You have to get objective views outside of your business to challenge you as you implement these things. And also ask a lot of times it's top down. And I think We got to go down to the bottom and ask our teachers, ask our newest teacher and our oldest teacher, whether they're employees or ICs, get their advice, get their feedback. Like, I'm thinking about doing this. This is why. And they will shed light on things that you've never thought of.
Well, by the way, I think, speaking of getting an outside perspective and looking at your business with fresh eyes, and getting some advice and feedback, coaching, it is a wonderful time to start coaching, because then you can actually really track, like, on a calendar year, oh, when did my business start really taking off? Oh, it was January 2023. Wonder why? Oh yeah, I hired Alex or Carol or Teresa or Terry. And that's when we really started implementing the things that are causing the success. So by the way, we still have these coupon codes to start coaching with Alex and Carol, and I'm going to put those in the comments here for you. So if you haven't grabbed one of those yet, you can save $500 when you sign up for coaching with them. There's only two. There were originally 2 available for each coach, and I think there may be less than 2 now. So definitely make sure you take advantage of those and start with coaching in the new year if you're not already with a coach.
And also too, if you're not quite ready to make the commitment to the dedicated coaching, is you can always book with any of the coach, like a 2 or 4 hour intensive. So let's say you just want to dive in and get your marketing calendar done, or your goals done, or work on, Teresa is helping one of my clients with the brand bot campaign right now. Those are things that you can always just book, like a one-off call, or maybe, so just throwing that out there as well, because that can be a good way. If you just need a little fine tuning on something, you just want to talk to somebody about something, that can be a way to get the access and have those resources for you. So just throwing that out there as well, Kay.
Yes. And if you haven't experienced what it's like to work with a YC coach, book your free coaching call to get started. Like, you can find out, first of all, we'll give you some actionable steps to walk away with after that coaching call, whether you sign up for consistent coaching or not. But also you'll get a glimpse of what it's like, and we'll tell you like how we work here with our clients. So, so I'll put the link for that in the comments as well. If you happen to be one of those people who have the Plus membership right now and you have access to all the resources and courses, by the way, I wanted to just give you guys a rundown of the webinars that we did in 2022. So like really fast, I'm going to list them off. My partner behind me. And, just so you guys have a glimpse of what's in there in the courses for you, if you haven't looked at it in a while, or if you don't have that Plus membership or coaching membership, the premium one, then get that so that you can spend your New Year's Day recovering and watching the webinars. And as Terry pointed out to me before the thing, like too, you don't even have to watch them. You can just listen to the recording. You can even speed it up, I think. Is that possible? Yeah, you could listen to it at double time. Okay, here's so in double time, these are the webinars from 2022. Stickiness, secrets of long-term retention, marketing automations that convert and give you time back, ridiculously simple ways to improve your Google ads, the ultimate guide to intro offers that get you results, 5 easy ways to use core values to help drive revenue. What? Christmas in July? Yes, let's get this done. What everybody ought to know about organizational charts, bonus webinar on ClassPass, control your cash like a boss, legal essentials for yoga studio owners with lawyer Corey, the art of converting visitors into loyal customers, and 3 keys to motivating your team and how to pay them right. That's what we did. So much team and so much value in the courses library for you guys. So make sure you check those out, because there's something basically for every aspect of your business.
And you're forgetting one very important
Is
one.
there another one?
Your secret sauce and your KPIs.
I did forget that one. I'm sorry, Terry. I was trying to read so fast.
Yeah.
When was that?
That was like last January.
You know why? Because in the library, for some reason, it's like January, then May of 2021. I don't know why. That one's out of order. Yeah. Discover your secret sauce in your KPIs. And how could I forget that? Because if you aren't caught up on your KPIs, you really want to do that now, right? Because you want to be able to look at the whole year. Terry can help you with that.
I can.
Yes. Okay. Anything else to add, you guys, about this year or this new year coming up?
Yeah, I think something important. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kay.
Oh, thanks, Gary.
Kay's a New Year baby. So her
Thanks
birthday's
so
coming
much.
up.
Thank you. Yes. So you know what I want for my birthday is I want everybody's yoga business to be hyper successful. And I want you all to pay yourselves abundantly in both money, time, and happiness. And also I want you to go do some yoga.
There we go. I think that's the way to help end it out.
All right, everybody. Happy New Year. And please post any questions
Year,
if you have any
everyone.
comments here in the comments.
Thanks, everyone. Happy New Year.
We'll
Big
see
love.
you. We'll probably see you before 2023, but we'll definitely see you a lot in 2023. We have such exciting things planned for you here in the YC. Don't miss it.